Good morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you're seeing this. I hope you're having a great day. And welcome to my Mad Lab. I am the Mad Lad. These are my Mad Lad creations. And if you would like to see the personal deck list for yourself, look down in the description below. With it, I am bringing to y'all my all-time favorite Magic the Gathering Commander deck. Valduk, Keeper of the Flame. For those that don't know, Valduk is a 3-mana red commander that reads, at the beginning of combat, on your turn, for each aura and equipment attached to it, create a 3/1 elemental creature token with trample and haste. Exile those tokens at the beginning of the next end step. Whenever I first read this, I was like, haha, funny mono red Voltron. But the more I've played with this and the more I've made this deck my own, the more I realized it's not so much how many different things can I throw onto Valduk, but how many combats can I take and how can I abuse this ETB while also keeping these tokens. So with it, there's a few different synergies that kind of go on into this deck, whether it's burning my opponents out, suiting him up, taking additional combats, getting additional triggers. Yeah, I think that's actually it. So, what I decided to do was take each of these little aspects and mishmash them. Starting out with the burn package, City on Fire, because we generate a lot of elementals in this deck, and that Convoke is pretty spice. 5 Alarm Fire, because of how many elementals we create on this deck, we can honestly start blasting players out of the game. And have the Eternal, cares about how much our opponents lost and gives us a lot more mana for it. Perforos, for each of the elementals, we're doing an additional 2 to each opponent. Terror of the Peaks, for each elemental, we choose a target and deal 3 damage. Throne of the God Pharaoh, whenever at the beginning of our end step, each opponent loses life equal to the number of tapped creatures. We can actually do this trigger before we exile our tokens. Oh. The equipments we run in this deck are Beamtown Beatstick, because it generates us a treasure, Bloodforged Battleaxe, because it can replicate itself, giving us more equipments to put onto Valduk, Boots of Speed, because it has haste and equips for 1. Commander's Plate is by far the most broken thing in this deck and is honestly probably the best card in the deck. Darksteel Plate has Indestructible and gives us Indestructible. Dragon Mantle, play for 1, replaces itself so we don't have to worry about Valduk getting destroyed and Dragon Mantle going away. Plus it can be a mana sink. Golem Skin's Gauntlets pumps us out. Hammer of Nazan, play for 4, immediately equips and grants Indestructible. Inquisitor's Rosette gives us a body, gives us vigilance, and gives us Menache, which are all 3 pretty powerful things in this deck. Because of Valduk, we can still swing with him even though that's not the primary thing with him. Lightning Greaves is protection. Paradise Mantle is a 0-drop 1 equip and gives us an elemental each turn while also ramping us. Rune of Speed we can put onto Valduk to get another 1. Draws us a card so I don't have to worry about it dying. Body and Mind gives us protection from green-blue. Sword of the Animist ramps us. Sword of Truth and Justice, white and blue, and puts +1/+1 counters on it. Tensakoto's Maul gives us +3/+3 and trample, and equips for 1. Reaver Cleaver ramps the fuck out of us, and Zephyr Boots gives us flying, draws us a card, and then discards a card. Bergie lets us really storm out with this deck because of how many things we like to throw down. Legend Brawl makes all of our Mana Rocks and lesser artifacts become equipments, which pump Valduk, giving us more elementals. Chaos Warp, Deflecting Swap, both for protection. Coath Fire of Resistance ramps us and can do a little bit of burn, but I really just use it for searching out mountains. Martin Stromgald can end games whenever he attacks. And Sundial of the Infinite lets us keep our elementals. The way we really take care of our mana includes Arcane Signet, 2 mana. Ashnod's Altar turns our elementals into 2 colorless. Dockside Extortionist, because it's one of the best red cards. Lotus Bloom lets us, in 1 turn, have an additional 3 mana. Nyx Lotus, even though we don't have the biggest amount of devotion in this deck, it still outperforms. Phyrexian Altar, kind of like Ashnod's Altar. It's just kind of redundant with it. Ruby Medallion, for red spells costing less. Soul Ring because it's commander. Soul Talisman because it's commander. And is once again redundant with Soul Talisman. The way we get additional combat, you should have been in there. But Repercussion, whenever a creature is dealt damage, Repercussion deals that much damage to that creature's controller, which can minorly backfire, but with how many elementals we're creating, it's more than likely going to outdo the damage that we take from it. The way we get additional combats are Aggravated Assault, and if we have our altars. This can go infinite very easily. Bloodthirster, because it basically just reads, okay, do 3 additional combats because it has flying and trample. Breath of the Fury, which is a 1-card infinite basically, where we just slowly start passing it along all of our elementals and just can end the game outright. Combat Celebrant, which by itself gives us 2 combats as long as we exert it. And Scourge of the Throne, whenever we attack an opponent with the most amount of life, we get an additional combat once per turn. The way we do additional triggers include Harmonic Prodigy, because Valduk is a shaman, Helm of the Host, because it's Helm of the Host, and we can actually pass this along to Bloodthirster, Scourge of the Throne to get additionals, Kiki Jiki for the exact same thing, and Strionic Resonator for additional Valduk triggers. 2 cards that I actually didn't sort without even realizing it earlier. Molten Psych basically wheels us into a new hand for whatever the highest number of lands is, and we burn for the amount of artifacts we have. And Vandal Blast, which is a board wipe. Sometimes it's beneficial, sometimes it's not, but I like having at least one form of like protection like that. The draw cards we have in this deck are Cathartic Pyre, because it burns and then discard 1 or discard up to 2, draw 2. Chandra lets us wheel our hand. Culling Days lets us build incremental value over time while also being a sacrifice outlet. Duretti lets us discard, draw that many, and then we can also sacrifice an artifact, return a different artifact from graveyard to battlefield. Endless Atlas, because it's a 2-mana draw card as long as we have 3 mountains, or snow-covered mountains in this case. Expedite, target creature gains haste, draw a card. Faithless Savaging, discard, then draw a card. Rebound, Fist of Flame, draw a card until end of turn. Target creature gets trample and gets +1/+0 for each card I've drawn this turn. Giant Fiery Negotiator, exile the top 2 cards, choose one of them. I may play it this turn. Jessica's Will, potentially the best red card. In best case scenario, it is a add 7 red mana, draw 3 cards. Mask of Memory, whenever deal combat damage, draw 2 cards, then discard a card. Skull Clamp, because we equip it to one of the elementals, draw 2 cards. Stun, only part that really matters is draw a card. And Valakut Awakening lets us wheel as many cards as we want and then draw that many +1, so it replaces itself. And then by far really the other 2 best cards besides Commander's Plate are Goblin Matron, which searches a goblin, can either get us Kiki Jiki or what I have, Goblin Engineer. Whenever it ETBs, search for a artifact card, put it into the graveyard, then shuffle, which doesn't sound the best, but if you were paying attention, there was a few different ways to reoccur with it. But the best part about this is sacrifice an artifact, return target artifact with mana value 3 or less from graveyard to the battlefield, which is basically all of them.